Doom is back, and with the Dark Ages, ID Software just launched the latest installment of the iconic gory hellfest that has been with gamers since the very beginning. For 2025 we get an impressive visual update, and contrary to other big AAA releases, while you do need some proper hardware grunt to run the new game, when it runs it rips, and it's very refreshing to see a game being that well optimized right from the start. For the Dark Ages, ID Software also walked that very fine line of paying tribute to what the series is known for, which is basically just slicing through never-ending hordes of demons in all shapes and sizes, but also adding new ways to paint the town red. And for the most part of my playthrough so far, there were times where I forgot my Demon Slayer carried guns in a Doom game. For our video today, I will mostly focus on the technical side of things, and we try to get you some early performance impressions from several different laptops so you can get an idea of how the game might run on your hardware. Of course, I will also discuss my overall gameplay experience, since, believe it or not, the Dark Ages is the first installment in the series I have played. Ever. But before you guys get started roasting me in the comments for missing out on one of the most iconic franchises in PC gaming history, my colleague Anil, our resident gaming expert, did a thorough review of the game itself, and you can find a link to his article on the website in the description below. And with that out of the way, let's go to hell, shall we? As I already mentioned, let's have a look at graphics and performance for now. Doom the Dark Ages utilizes the same ID Tech 8 engine we saw on Indiana Jones and the Great Circle already. And by the way, for all of the gameplay footage you have and will see in this video, I used the ROG Strix G16 being powered by the RTX 5080 and Intel's 275HX. Generally, the game looks good. It's not as jaw-droppingly gorgeous as some of the other big releases for this year, but the graphics complement the general gameplay quite well, and everything from lighting to textures hardly offers anything to really complain about. While a path tracing upgrade is coming soon, ray tracing is already a core part of your visual experience and cannot be turned off. This means the new game is quite demanding right from the get-go, but it also looks really good even at low settings already. And from what I have been able to spot, the biggest difference will be global illumination. But to be quite honest, the overall visual sacrifices you will have to make between low settings and the max ultra nightmare presets are minimal. This is good news, since it means you can enjoy the game with around 60 FPS even without the initial help from any upscalers, even on something like the RTX 3060 and a Legion 5 Pro. Ultra is also somewhat playable, and since Doom already supports DLSS 4 with Nvidia's upscaling tech in performance mode, you should get things back into playable territory without any problems, at least in Full HD. Everything beyond that is off the table, at least for the 3060 in this case. Making the jump to the 4070 in the 2024 Razer Blade 14 gives you quite a boost in FPS numbers across all setting levels we have tested, even though QHD is still not quite ideal, especially for such a fast first-person shooter. I would personally set the game to Full HD here, which still looks very good, especially on the smallish 14-inch display, and with DLSS in its quality setting and frame generation, I got around 130 to 140 FPS, which is quite the snappy experience. Of course, AMD makes mobile GPUs as well, if not that many of them, and I was able to get my hands on the Strix Halo-powered ROG Z13, and well, the integrated 8060S barely got us 60 FPS in Full HD and low settings, even falling behind the aging 3060. It is quite hard to tell if this is simply the difference in ray tracing performance or the lack of any driver optimization at this point, even though we have been using a pressed driver provided by the good folks from Bethesda for our testing. However, with FSR in its balanced setting and AMD's frame generation implementation, I was able to get similar average FPS as we have seen on the Blade, even though subjectively the image was a tiny bit blurrier than on the 14-inch Razer. But again, it was definitely playable without any distracting problems whatsoever. But as I mentioned before, Doom the Dark Ages supports DLSS 4 and therefore Nvidia's full stack of little AI helpers, so you can get the most out of your hardware. So let's see what we have been able to squeeze out of the 175 watts RTX 5080 in the Strix G16. In the 16-incher you would technically not even need to utilize any of those technologies if you are content with 60 FPS in QHD and Ultra settings. But then again, this being a fast-paced shooter, a bit more would definitely make for a much smoother experience. And while upscaling alone will get you quite far, frame generation takes it into bonkers territory, and with 4X you can easily max out the 240Hz display in this puppy. Since I know some of you are concerned about latency, I did some additional testing, and as you can see, while there is a bit of an increase, it's hardly something that will tremendously impact your overall gaming experience negatively. But being able to click on demon heads with more than 200 FPS is awesome, and I did most of my playthrough with these settings. But what about the game itself? While I usually prefer more story-driven RPGs, Doom is the gory, fast-paced, action-packed snack that you can easily put on for an hour or two after a long day at the office and simply forget about everything. Between the metal soundtrack pumping from the speakers, which I appreciated as a fan of heavy music for the most part, even though I found it to be a little bit generic at times, the dark and gloomy level design and hordes of enemies trying to end you before you can return the favor, you actually do not really have a lot of time to think about anything else. The general gameplay is incredibly fast, and that's definitely aided by the emphasis on melee combat and utilizing the new shield as an integral part of your arsenal to not only block incoming attacks but also throw the thing in glorious Captain America fashion or close the distance to more distant enemies in an instant. In general, staying on your toes is of vital importance, since otherwise you will be swamped and outmaneuvered instantly by the hordes of hell coming your way. As I said before, at times I forgot I had guns. For one, because they do not feel that powerful in the early game, and on the other hand, because the combination of close quarter combat and the shield is a ton of fun and very well implemented. Again, for a detailed breakdown for all the new gameplay mechanics, the differences to prior Doom games and what you can expect in terms of story, please check out our more in-depth game review on the website. And we will also have more benchmarks for you in a dedicated tech piece coming soon. So yeah, in a way, Doom the Dark Ages is a breath of fresh air in the 2025 gaming landscape. It runs very well, it's a bit of a break from 80+ hours RPGs, and despite feeling very old school in all the best of ways, you got a ton of fresh ideas with modern graphics. And if you simply want to have fun for about 20 hours, well, make sure to check it out. This should also be it already from my end today. Please let me know in the comments below if you plan to play the new part in the series and what you think about the Dark Ages in general. Thanks a ton for watching, folks. Make sure to hit that like and sub button on your way out, and feel free to watch some of our recent videos about all things gaming and laptops. My name is Alex, you have been fantastic, and I cannot wait to see you all in the next one. Take care.